Good day and hello. First, watch Alastair Crooke's in-depth analysis on Israel's military challenges with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. He highlights the setbacks in Gaza and Lebanon, providing valuable insights into the evolving conflict. Stay tuned and watch the full video for a deeper understanding of these key developments.
Flatly, they have not destroyed Hamas. They may have done some damage, but not substantial damage. And in fact, in many cases, the Israeli army themselves are saying they've been astonished how, they thought they'd cleared a part of Gaza, only to find a week or two later they were going back because Hamas had reassembled itself and reconstituted itself. Hamas is reconstituting itself throughout Gaza. So they failed on that. They failed on freeing the hostages, and that's why they decided, the solution to what's happening in Gaza is we're going to have a big victory in Lebanon, and that victory in Lebanon will produce, in the end, a capitulation by Hamas in Gaza. And then when that's gone into difficulties, as it is, they're suffering large numbers of casualties. The Israeli army, they have hardly penetrated more than a kilometer or two. They're just destroying houses in a big band, going in and demolishing people's houses, trying to create a desert there. They're going back to an old treaty that was the 83 treaty, whereby they would be able to sort of go in at will anywhere to Lebanon. They would be able to fly in and attack Hezbollah. The 83 treaty was a complete surrender of Lebanese sovereignty, and so they're asking for the same again. But since that's not working now, they say, everything will work if only we attack Iran. A big attack on Iran, and then all of these things will come true. And of course, the attack on Iran was a failure, just like the other elements. They did know. There's absolutely no evidence. You can check everywhere you like, but any serious person who's looked at the photographs or satellite images tell you there's no significant damage done to Iran's air defenses, and certainly not its nuclear program or anything else. All of that is just pure, if you like, it's just lies that are done for victory.
Alastair Crooke's analysis brings attention to Israel's struggle in confronting Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, revealing a deepening challenge in its military approach. Despite Israel's declared goal of eradicating Hamas to ensure the security of its citizens, the situation on the ground has proven far more complex than initially anticipated. Even Israel's most seasoned military experts are caught off guard by the resilience of Hamas, as the Israeli military continually finds itself returning to areas of Gaza where Hamas has re-established itself, each time after an attempt to neutralize it. This ongoing resilience of Hamas underscores significant flaws in Israel's military strategy. Crooke argues that Israel's focus on airstrikes targeting infrastructure and large-scale ground operations has not led to the decisive outcomes it sought. The ability of Hamas to rapidly reorganize and regroup within Gaza's dense urban landscape reveals major strategic vulnerabilities. Israel is now confronted with a troubling question. Can a military approach alone ever truly defeat a group as deeply embedded within the socio-political fabric of Gaza as Hamas? The challenge of fighting Hamas is compounded by the fact that it has become an integral part of daily life in Gaza, making its removal much more difficult. Crooke highlights how Israel's conventional military tactics, which rely on superior firepower and technological advantage, face significant challenges against a highly motivated guerrilla force that operates in the shadows. The very nature of Hamas's integration into the social fabric of Gaza suggests that traditional military strategies may not be sufficient to overcome its resistance. Frustrated by its lack of decisive success in Gaza, Israel has shifted its attention to Lebanon, where Hezbollah poses a similar threat. Israel hopes that weakening Hezbollah may, in turn, diminish Hamas's resolve. However, Israel's actions in Lebanon have encountered strong resistance, with its forces suffering significant losses. Israel's strategy has largely centered on targeting Hezbollah's infrastructure in an effort to create space for maneuver. But this tactic has yielded limited success. The situation evokes memories of the 1982 Lebanon War, where initial Israeli advances were met with fierce resistance, ultimately leading to withdrawal. Crooke draws attention to a 1983 agreement that gave Israel significant autonomy over parts of Lebanon, which had been used as a model for Israeli military actions in the region. However, the geopolitical landscape today is starkly different from the 1980s. Hezbollah has grown considerably stronger, bolstered by support from Iran and its ability to maintain strong ties with regional powers like Syria. Israel's attempts to apply old strategies in the face of this modern threat are increasingly looking out of date. The failure of Israeli efforts to strike a decisive blow against Iran further complicates matters. Crooke observes that Israeli planners believed a major strike against Iran could destabilize the broader resistance network in Gaza and Lebanon. However, satellite imagery and intelligence reports suggest that Iran's nuclear infrastructure and air defense systems remain largely intact. Despite Israel's claims of success, the actual impact of these strikes has been minimal, with Iran's military capabilities still robust. Crooke argues that Israel's portrayal of this operation as a victory is largely an attempt to spin a failure into a success, signaling a deeper narrative of disinformation. The inability to break Iran's defenses reveals a fundamental flaw in Israel's broader strategy. Crooke suggests that the focus on attacking Iran could backfire, as it risks triggering an escalation that could involve other major powers like China and Russia, both of which have strategic interests in Iran's stability. Any such escalation could significantly broaden the scope of the conflict, moving it far beyond Israel's control, and thus making a swift resolution increasingly unlikely. Crooke proposes that Israel's overarching strategy is flawed in its assumption that military victory alone will resolve the issue. The notion that Hamas could be forced to surrender through the defeat of Hezbollah or Iran oversimplifies the situation. Hamas is not merely a proxy of Iran. Its ideological and political motivations run much deeper and are rooted in Gaza itself. Even if Iran were to be weakened or neutralized, it is unlikely that Hamas's resolve would falter. Crooke argues that Israel risks finding itself stuck in an indefinite conflict without achieving the security it seeks. Israel's ongoing strategy of widespread destruction in Gaza and Lebanon, aimed at creating buffer zones to prevent Hamas and Hezbollah from re-emerging, has also led to significant humanitarian costs. The destruction of homes, displacement of civilians, and disruption of daily life further complicate Israel's objectives. Instead of winning hearts and minds, Israel's approach risks creating long-lasting resentment and resistance, making peace more difficult to attain. Moreover, Israel's disinformation campaign, which seeks to portray its military operations as successful, further widens the gap between the public narrative and the reality on the ground. By casting its military actions as victories, Israel attempts to project an image of strength both to its domestic audience and the international community. However, as the gap between perception and reality grows, public dissatisfaction may also rise. This dissonance could lead to increased domestic pressure to reassess the current strategy and consider alternative approaches, including diplomatic solutions. Crooke concludes that Israel's current military-focused strategy is unsustainable in the long term. The pursuit of military victories that seem increasingly unattainable may need to give way to a diplomatic approach that emphasizes stability and peace over dominance and destruction. For Israel to achieve lasting security and peace, Crooke suggests that it must reassess its reliance on force and recognize the broader complexities at play in the region. Only through this shift could Israel begin to address the deeper issues that perpetuate instability and violence in the region.